Hi, my name is Trevor Dunn, and these are the films I watched from December 3rd to the 9th. On December 3rd, I went to the theater and saw Wake Up Dead Man, directed by Ryan Johnson. This is the third adventure of Benoit Blanc. He is investigating a murder in a church. The victim is Monsieur Wicks, a firebrand pastor played by Josh Brolin. The main suspect is Judd Duplincia, played by Josh O'Connor, a reformed boxer turned priest. Wake Up Dead Man is not structured like the past two Knives Out films. For the first 45 minutes, we don't see Benoit Blanc. It's about establishing Judd and the Monsieur's relationship and the relationship between Wicks and his flock of disciples. Judd is about using the church to help people while Monsieur Wicks wants to use them. When we see Benoit show up, it's a blast. He's slowly climbing the rankings of my favorite cinematic detectives. Wake Up Dead Man has plenty of twists and turns, but one criticism is the cast isn't used to its full potential. It's more focused on a select core of the cast, but that means a lot of A-list talent is kind of wasted. Wake Up Dead Man is a good detective story. Unfortunately, by the time you see this, it'll probably already be a tile on Netflix. On December 4th, I watched Avatar: The Way of Water, directed by James Cameron. I wanted to get back into the Avatar world before Fire and Ash. Jake Sully and Neytiri have been living peacefully since the events of the first film. They have raised a family, but the humans eventually come back, and Jake must lead the Na'vi again while trying to be a good dad. I enjoyed Avatar, but it's way too long and a bit too similar to the first one, of going to a new place, fitting in, learning their ways, and fighting together. Then there's Spider. Much was said about this kid, and he's basically a rat that sells out the Na'vi, and he looks like one of those island boys, which doesn't help. But all the water scenes are breathtaking, and everything with the whales is beautiful. The last action scene is Cameron in his bag. When Jake tells the Colonel,
"Let's get it done,"
I was jumping from my seat. There is no one like Cameron when it comes to action set pieces. I wish we focused more on Neytiri and less on the kids. Neytiri has nothing to do until the third act, and I heard bro one too many times from those damn kids. Overall, Avatar: The Way of Water is a good sequel, and I can't wait to go to the theaters and see Fire and Ash. On the same day, I watched Once Upon a Time in America, directed by Sergio Leone. Robert De Niro plays the Noodles, a hood who has to go on the run but comes back to New York 35 years later to do a job. The film then flashes back to Noodles' childhood, and then we see how he rose up in the criminal underworld. Once Upon a Time in America is one of the best crime films ever made. The journey of this group of small-time hoods that turned themselves into some of the most powerful gangsters in the city can only be described as epic. Once Upon a Time in America takes us through different eras of American crime. First, you see the feudal gangs of the 1900s that focused on robbing and extortion, then in the Prohibition era of the 20s and 30s, and finally the corruption of the unions and other legitimate businesses in the 60s. It's one of the most epic and awe-inspiring films ever made, but it's also pretty grimy. This was the last film Sergio Leone ever made. I wish he was able to make more than 7 films because his audacious style and sense of scope has been copied but never replicated. The runtime is nearly 4 hours, so you really need to plan out a day for yourself to watch it, but you really should because Once Upon a Time in America is an American epic. On December 5th, I went to the theater and saw Zootopia 2, directed by Jared Bush and Byron Howard. Judy and Nick are fresh off their bust of the mayor. Flying high, they're ready for anything, but everyone else thinks it was a fluke. After messing up a case, they're under threat of getting reassigned to new partners. So they must prove themselves by catching a snake played by Kiwi Kwan. But before they bring him in, he tells them that the snakes have been framed and taken advantage of. If the first film was an allegory for racism, this film is about forced relocation and the whitewashing of history. Zootopia 2 was solid, but I thought the case itself was not as interesting as the first one. The film was more focused on Judy and Nick's relationship as partners, and if they can work together. The film had a little bit too much therapy speak for me, which is a problem in a lot of films these days. It also referenced Pulp Fiction, Silence of the Lambs, and had a very funny Shining bit. That's just a little catnip for the parents. Zootopia 2 is the biggest film out right now. Go check it out. The same day, I watched The Fog of War, directed by Earl Morris. It's a documentary about the life of Robert McNamara, working as a strategist in World War II to becoming the president of Ford Motor Company, and finally the Secretary of Defense for the Kennedy and Johnson administrations. The Fog of War is not structured like most documentaries. McNamara is the only talking head besides questions we hear from Earl Morris. One part that shocked me was McNamara admitting that if World War II had gone differently, that he would have been charged for war crimes. And there's a very harrowing moment where we see the casualties of Japanese cities with the comparable American cities. The film is like an updated version of Machiavelli's The Prince. It's structured in a way that each lesson has to do with a part of McNamara's life. For example, empathize with your enemy. Belief and seeing are both often wrong, and you can't change human nature. It's a fascinating story of one of the most important men in modern history. On December 6th, I watched Inception, directed by Christopher Nolan. Leonardo DiCaprio plays Dom Cobb. He uses technology that allows him to go into people's dreams and get information for them. Sato, played by Ken Watanabe, hires Cobb and his team to plant the idea in this rich businessman, played by Cillian Murphy, to break up his company so Sato can succeed. But the process of doing so is extremely difficult, and they have to go within a dream, within a dream, within a dream to do this. I like Inception, but if I was stacking it up with the rest of Nolan's filmography, I would have it near the bottom. It's less of a knock on Inception, more of how impressive Nolan's body of work is. But as the film goes on, the premise collapses in on itself. The old Nolan mantra of try not to understand it and just feel it doesn't work on me like some of his other films. It's also heavily inspired by the Japanese film Paprika. Both are about entering another person's dreams, and they both have a similar hallway sequence. Inception is a good film, but it's just lower tier Nolan for me. On December 7th, I watched Sentimental Value, directed by Joachim Trier. Renata Renze plays Nora, a stage actress who gets in contact with her father, Gustav Borg, played by Stellan Skarsgård, after her mother dies. He is a famous director and wants her to be the star of his new film, but she doesn't want to do it because they have such a fraught relationship. So he then offers the part to an American actress, Rachel Kemp, played by Elle Fanning. She becomes enamored with one of his films and wants to play a more personal character. He forms a daughter-like bond with her while still trying to connect with his daughter. I really enjoyed Sentimental Value. The relationship between Nora, Gustav, and the other daughter, Agnes, played by Igna Ipsidotter Lillelas. I enjoyed all the inside baseball Hollywood talk. There's a shot at Netflix that made me really laugh and also feel down about this current state of media. Sentimental Value is a good drama with many funny moments, and I think it's a shoo-in for getting nominated for Best International Feature as well as Best Picture. Go check it out in theaters. On December 8th, I watched No Other Choice, directed by Park Chan-wook. Lee Byung-hun plays Yu Men-soo, a veteran paper company supervisor that gets laid off after an American company merges with his. If he doesn't find another job soon, he'll have to sacrifice all the things he worked so hard to get, like his childhood house. After months of applying, he's got no offers, so he comes up with a plan to make a fake paper company and see who applies to it. After comparing all the resumes to his own, he decides that there are 3 people with better resumes, so he starts killing them to become the best available applicant. I love No Other Choice. It's a perfect black comedy for this day and age. This is the 3rd black comedy to come out that highlights the evils of modern capitalism and how we're all rats climbing over each other to just get a little nibble of scrap. I got to see No Other Choice early because my friend told me about a screening. Unfortunately, No Other Choice doesn't come out in the theaters until December 25th, and it's a very limited release. When the time comes, make an effort to go see it. It's one of the best films of the year. On December 9th, I watched Samurai 2, Duel at Ichijo Temple. Directed by Hiroshi Inagaki, Takazo, played by Toshiro Minafinu, is continuing his journey to become a samurai. He changes his name to Masashi Miyamoto and goes about challenging great masters in duels. He challenges Shichiro Yoshiro, played by Akito Hirota, but his followers decide to try and kill him themselves, but they constantly keep getting foiled. Watching all this take place is Kojiro Sasaki, played by Koji Satura, a great swordsman who one day will challenge Miyamoto. Takazo runs into 2 women he left behind in the first film, Otsu and Akira. And will Takazo choose the sword or love? I like Samurai 2 more than Samurai 1. We've established all the characters, and I think the action scenes also took a step up. Toshiro Minafune is excellent as Takazo, slowly becoming Musashi Miyamoto. You should check out the Samurai trilogy. It's an epic story. Thank you for watching. These are the films I watched from December 3rd to the 9th. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.